Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Rolex Explorer 2 reference 226570. This watch is available for €11,990. You can purchase the watch from Chronex.com online or alternatively in person at their boutiques. All their watches are Chronex certified original by their in-house watchmakers, and all their watches are covered by the Chronex 24-month warranty. So firstly, let's look at the box that the watch comes in, and then I'll talk you through the other items one gets with a piece. So the Rolex Explorer 2 comes in a watch box which is protected by this white cardboard outer sleeve which one removes. And this is the watch box itself. As you can see, the Rolex coronet is embossed on the lid, which is very aesthetically pleasing. One removes the lid, pulls down the flap, and also inside there's a protective foam panel. And this is the watch box itself. So as you can see, it's finished to a high standard, very aesthetically pleasing, and there is a gold Rolex coronet embossed on the lid. So inside, I'll talk you through the items you get with the piece. This is the plastic bezel protector which comes with a watch. And one also gets this superlative certified chronometer tag, and as you can see, it has a hologram which changes in the light. And on the reverse, we have Rolex SA Geneva and the gold coronet embossed. So this tag certifies that the movement used in the watch, which is the caliber 3285, is certified both by COSC and Rolex as a superlative chronometer. Inside, one pulls down the flap. This is the owner's instruction manual for the Explorer 2, which is a very useful read if you're unfamiliar with the piece. And one also gets this leather wallet, which contains the Worldwide Service Guarantee Manual booklet. And on the reverse, we have the electronic warranty card. Now for security, I've blacked out the serial number of the piece, but you can see the reference number is 226570, and this is a brand new 2021 unworn piece. The date of purchase is 17th of June 2021. So, with regards to the specification of the Rolex Explorer 2, reference 226570. This is the 50th anniversary version of the Explorer 2. 2021 marks the 50th anniversary of the piece, and there are some notable enhancements of the 226570 over its predecessor, the 216570, which I will detail. It has the same 42mm case diameter as its predecessor, 50mm lug-to-lug measurement. It has a thickness of 12.5mm, and it has a lug width of 21mm. The Oyster bracelet tapers from 20mm at the lugs down to the flip-lock clasp, as you can see, which is signed with the Rolex coronet. So the 904L Oyster steel has a lovely luster to it, as you can see when I tilt it in the light, and it's one of my favourite aspects of the piece. So with regards to the enhancements, Rolex have changed the proportions and the profiles of the case. They've slimmed down the lugs, although it does have the same 21mm lug width as its previous version. And they've also made the crown guards more pointed and angular. So I think that has improved the look of the piece. Another notable enhancement is they have added AR coating to the underside of the sapphire crystal. And that is a noticeable improvement because, as you can see, when I tilt the piece in the light, it reduces the highly reflective nature of the white gold applied indices and Mercedes hands. So it's now less reflective and there is less glare on the sapphire crystal than the previous version, the 216570. So as this is a 2021 50th anniversary version, I think it's going to become a highly collectible piece in the future, so it is a strong investment piece. Now another more notable upgrade is the upgrade of the movement. The previous version, the 216570, used the caliber 3187, which had a 50-hour power reserve. This piece uses the caliber 3285, which is the same movement used in the GMT Master 2. The most notable enhancement of it is that the 3285 has a 70-hour power reserve, so it has an additional 20 hours over the previous movement used, which was the caliber 3187. And I think that extra 20 hours of power reserve really is a notable improvement, as is the use of AR coating on the underside of the sapphire crystal. So with regards to the finishing, it is absolutely flawless throughout, as one would expect. Mirror polished flanks, which are very aesthetically pleasing. One of my favourite aspects is the finishing of the bezel. As you can see, the black Arabic numerals are clearly legible, but there is nice radial brushing satin finish to the bezel, which really does complement the lip of the sapphire crystal, which projects above the bezel. When one tilts the piece in the light, the edge of the sapphire crystal catches the light and it just complements the radial brushing to the bezel. It's a very aesthetically pleasing piece to look at. 100 meters of water resistance, and the screw down case back is undecorated, but it's brushed into a longitudinal satin finish. It's finished to perfection as one would expect, and it's very low profile. The screw down crown is coin edge finished, signed with a Rolex coronet, and it's a twin lock crown which provides an effective hermetic seal to 100 meters. So let's test the crown action. Absolutely silky smooth, minimal resistance to unscrew it, perfect interface between the internal thread of the stainless steel crown and the external thread of the crown tube. So it's made from solid 904L oyster steel, as is the watch throughout. One thing I like about the movements, the caliber 3285, is when one pulls it out to the first click, one can quick set the hour hand, as you can see, and each of the 12 positions have a good solid click. One can feel the indexing of the quick set hour hand, as you can see. So the movement has hand binding and hacking, but as you can see, the second hand is still running. And the advantage of this quick set hour hand is one can set the hour time without having to stop the movement. It continues to run. So it's independent of the GMT hour hand. And I really like that aspect. It makes setting the time very easy. So the date complication is magnified by 2.5 times. The Cyclops magnifier on the sapphire crystal also has AR coating on the underside, and as you can see, the Arabic numeral on the white date wheel is clearly legible as a result. If one pulls the crown out to the final position, one can set the time, and as you can see, that also rotates the GMT hour hand. One can cycle through the 12 hours to rotate the GMT hour hand to the correct position. Absolute pleasure to use. If one pulls out the crown to the first position, it's in the manual wind position, and it feels silky smooth to top up the power reserve, manually winding it to its maximum 70 hours. And I really like the 70-hour power reserve. It makes it far more practical than the previous movement used, the caliber 3187, which only had 50 hours of power reserve. So one can feel the resistance in the mainspring gradually building up as one manually winds it to its maximum 70 hours, and pushing it back in restarts the movement, and it's absolutely silky smooth to screw back down the crown and reinstate the 100 meters of hermetic seal. So it's something Rolex do very well. The twin lock crown is very well executed, absolute pleasure to use. It feels very good, and also it's low profile. The revised crown guard profile does improve the aesthetics of the piece, more angular and more pointed. The previous version, the 216570, had more squared off profiles like the Submariner Date or the GMT Master 2, for example. But I like the more pointed revised crown guards on the 226570 we're looking at here. They complement the slimmed down lugs. So I like the fact the flanks of the case have been reduced. As you can see, they are significantly thinner than the previous version, the 216570, and I think the 21mm lug width perfectly balances the 42mm head of the piece. With regards to the flip lock clasp, as you can see, it is beautifully brushed into a satin finish, mirror polished to a flawless standard on the flanks, very well executed, and there's a 5mm easy link extension which I'll show you. As you can see, I have deployed it. It's very well executed. Personally, I would prefer to see a glide lock clasp introduced to the Explorer 2 as used in the Submariner Date. I think a glide lock would give better on the fly adjustment, but however, the 5mm easy link extension does provide some on the fly adjustment, and it is satisfactory. Needless to say, the interior of the clasp is finished to perfection, beautifully laser engraved with the Rolex brand emblem and coronet, and it's just absolutely beautiful to look at, made by Steel and Ox. So I'll give you a wrist shot. Now, this piece has been sized for a smaller wrist, so it's a tight fit to get across my hand, and what I'm going to do is remove my glove, and then I'll be able to give you a wrist shot. As you can see, it then fits my wrist perfectly. Good positive click to the flip lock clasp, and as you can see, there is a beautiful luster to the 904L oyster steel in the oyster bracelet. Although it's a 42mm diameter, it is a large piece which does wear with wrist presence. It does have a lack of heft. It's a relatively lightweight piece at only 164 grams. And I really like the low profile aspect because it's only 12.5mm thick. The 21mm lug width perfectly balances the 42mm head of the piece, and as you can see, those slimmed down tapered lugs really do complement the 21mm lug width. So they've got the taper on the bracelet done to perfection, and slimming down the lugs on the 226570 we're looking at here really has improved it. I also like the more pointed angular crown guards, which do complement the tapered lugs. So this is a better looking piece than its predecessor, the 216570. Although it's 164 grams, it actually feels more like 150 grams on wrist. It feels very comfortable to wear for long periods of time. The feel-good factor is outstanding, and the comfort level is outstanding. The AR coating on the underside of the sapphire crystal is a notable improvement and one of my favourite aspects, as is the upgrade to the caliber 3285 movement with 70 hours of power reserve. So with this piece in 2021, one is gaining 20 hours of power reserve, and one also has the benefit of AR coating, as well as the slimmed down lugs, which make the watch better looking. So it's a very aesthetically pleasing piece, as you can see, and as I've discussed, being a 50th anniversary piece in 2021, I think this is going to be a highly sought after piece by purist Rolex collectors in the future. So a strong investment piece. So let's do a lume test, and we'll see how the lume performs when it's charged up to its maximum. So as always, I'm going to use my 100 UV LED torch to charge it up to its absolute peak. Right, so just bear with me, and I'm going to charge up the lume to its absolute peak. Right, so that's now fully charged, and as you can see, it has not disappointed. This piece uses Rolex Chromolite, and it is the very best of Swiss lume. As you can see, it's very similar. The blue tone is like BGW9 Swiss Superluminova. This is something that Rolex do very well. They use Chromolite throughout their current pieces, and it really is outstanding quality. It's glowing incredibly brightly, and it's continuing to glow for a good length of time. One thing I really like about it is the large arrowhead on the orange GMT hour hand. One can clearly differentiate the GMT hour hand from the regular hour hand, because the hour hand has a Mercedes point and the GMT hour hand has an arrowhead tip. So it's easy to read which is the GMT time and which is the conventional 12-hour time. And really, Rolex deserve full credit for producing an outstanding, clearly legible piece with outstanding Chromolite lume. So, very pleasing lume. Now, let's discuss the movement used, which is one of my favourite aspects. This piece uses the caliber 3285, which is an upgrade from the predecessor, the caliber 3187. So the caliber 3285, as I've discussed, is used in the GMT Master 2. It is a reliable, well-proven, technically excellent movement. It runs at 28,800 vibrations per hour and a frequency of 4 Hz. The caliber 3285 has 31 joules, has hand binding and hacking, which are useful complications, and as I've demonstrated, it also has a quick set hour complication. And I really like the fact that it's COSC certified as a superlative chronometer and also certified by Rolex after casing. The stated accuracy is plus or minus 2 seconds per day, which is very impressive, bearing in mind it has a 70-hour power reserve. So my favourite aspect overall really is the upgrade in power reserve. It's a more efficient movement than the predecessor, the caliber 3187. To gain an additional 20 hours of power reserve really is very impressive, but it still maintains the COSC certification of plus or minus 2 seconds per day. So really it's a GMT movement without any negatives. It is reliable, well proven, efficient, and also the build quality is outstanding, as well as the accuracy. So lastly, I will summarise the piece. What do I think of it overall? Well, when I'm considering reviewing a watch on my channel, the watch should meet 2 criteria. It should be both excellent quality and excellent value at the respective price point. At €11,990, yes, it is excellent quality, and yes, it is excellent value. It is significantly more expensive than the retail price, but I think it's justified because this is a 2021 version. Therefore, it is a 50th anniversary piece. And as I've discussed, in the future, this is going to be a strong investment piece because it's going to be desired by purist Rolex collectors, as are all 50th anniversary pieces. So when buying this, it is a strong investment which is going to appreciate, but also it is an outstanding, technically excellent piece because it has so many enhancements. The AR coating is a notable improvement, and also the 70-hour power reserve from the caliber 3285 is a notable improvement. So really it is a watch without any negatives. Rolex deserve full credit for producing a outstanding piece throughout. The only change I would make to it, and my only minor criticism, is I would like to see Rolex introduce a glide lock clasp as per the Submariner date into the Explorer 2, because I think that would be better than using the 5mm EasyLink extension. But however, that is a minor criticism. Everything else is perfection. So I'm going to highly recommend it to you for your consideration. I hope you've enjoyed my review of the Rolex Explorer 2 reference 226570. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you very much.